Numbers have always been my safe space. People lie, hearts change, and marriages crumble. But math is honest. So when I started noticing the discrepancies in our joint accounts, the withdrawals masked as investments, the transfers to a shell company in the Caymans called Coastal Advisory Group, I didn't cry. I didn't scream at my husband Ryan. I investigated. It led me straight to a real estate agent named Emily. And then it led me to her husband, Jack. I looked him up online before I ever booked the flight to Atlanta. Former Navy SEAL, owner of a high-end security firm in Tampa. In his photos, he looked capable, dangerous, and startlingly handsome in a rough, unpolished way. I felt a strange pang of sympathy for him, a warrior being played for a fool by a social climber and a club owner. I knew he was flying to a conference in Atlanta. I bought a ticket. I put on my best red dress, the one Ryan said was too much, and applied my lipstick like war paint. I found him in the Delta Lounge, nursing a whiskey. In person, he was devastating. He had broad shoulders that seemed to carry the weight of the world, and eyes that were alert but incredibly sad. My heart did a traitorous little flip in my chest. I pushed it down. This was business. I sat down next to him, close enough to smell the sandalwood and expensive scotch on him. "Your wife is sleeping with my husband, and unless I'm mistaken, they're planning to run away together with both our money." I waited for the explosion, the denial. But Jack just looked at me. He didn't blink. He didn't panic. He just set his glass down with a terrifying calmness.
"I know,"
he said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated right through me. That was the moment. That was when I started to lose my footing. We met back in Tampa, in a cheap motel off the highway to avoid being seen. It felt sordid, but it wasn't. It was the most intimate thing I'd ever experienced. I laid out the financials on the stained bedspread. "Ryan is using his club, Black Tide, to launder drug money," I explained, pointing to the spreadsheets. "Your wife isn't just an affair partner, Jack. She's his accomplice. They're moving cash through fake property deals." Jack sat in the armchair watching me. He wasn't looking at the papers, he was looking at me.
"You're brilliant, Laura,"
he said quietly. I flushed. Ryan hadn't complimented my mind in 5 years. He only cared about how I looked on his arm at galas. But Jack spoke to me like an equal, like a partner. "I don't want pity," I told him, my voice shaking slightly. "I want my life back. And if we happen to burn their world down along the way, I'm cool with that." Jack leaned forward. The space between us crackled with static electricity.
"We'll get them,"
he promised.
"We'll take everything."
And we did. God, we were good together. It became a dance. I handled the intelligence, Jack handled the muscle. I watched him work with a breathless fascination. He made a call to a fire marshal buddy, and suddenly Ryan's club was drowning in code violations. He called in favors with security teams, and Ryan was left defenseless. When someone threw a Molotov cocktail through the window of Jack's warehouse, I was terrified. I drove over there at 3 a.m., finding him sweeping up glass. "You could have been hurt," I said, grabbing his arm. He stopped sweeping and looked down at me. There was soot on his cheek. He looked exhausted and dangerous and so beautiful it hurt.
"I'm fine, Laura. I've been through worse."
"I haven't," I whispered. He hesitated, then reached out, his rough hand cupping my face. For a second, just a second, I thought he was going to kiss me. I wanted him to. I wanted him to erase every memory of Ryan. But Jack was an honorable man, too honorable for his own good. He just brushed his thumb over my cheekbone and stepped back.
"We stick to the plan,"
he said, though his voice was rougher than before. The end came with the force of a hurricane, literally. The storm was battering Tampa the night we executed the final play. Jack had worn a wire to a settlement meeting with Emily. He played the defeated husband and she took the bait, confessing to everything on camera. When he sent me the audio file, I listened to it in my car, rain hammering the roof. I heard his voice, calm and steady, and I realized I wasn't just impressed by him. I was in love with him. I was in love with a man who was still technically married to the woman destroying his life. The FBI moved in fast. Ryan tried to flee on his yacht with a bag of cash. Jack and I watched from the shelter of a parking garage. I stood close to him, shivering from the damp wind, and he wrapped his jacket around my shoulders. It smelled like him, safety and rain. When the feds swarmed the dock, Ryan's bag burst open, money flying into the gale. As they cuffed him, he screamed,
"It was Emily! She planned everything!"
"Coward." The next morning, the U.S. Marshals walked into Emily's press conference. Jack and I stood in the back. When she saw us standing together, shoulder to shoulder, a united front, her composure shattered.
"Jack!"
She screamed as they grabbed her.
"Help me! It's a mistake! I love you!"
I felt Jack stiffen beside me. I held my breath, terrified he might still care for her. But he just turned his back on her. He looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, the shadows in his eyes lifted.
It's over,
He said. The aftermath was messy but efficient. Ryan got 14 years, Emily got 9. Jack sold his house. I packed up my apartment. We met for dinner one last time before I moved to New York. The restaurant was quiet, the candlelight flickering between us. We had won. We had survived. But there was a heavy silence hanging over the table.
New York, huh?
Jack asked, swirling his wine. Fresh start, I said, forcing a smile. I need to find out who I am when I'm not fighting a war. Ask me to stay, I screamed internally. Tell me we can try. Jack looked at me for a long time. I saw the affection there, the deep respect, and maybe, just maybe, the same longing I felt. But Jack was a man who needed to rebuild his foundation before he could build a new house. And I was a woman who needed to learn to trust again.
You deserve the best, Laura.
He said softly. He reached across the table and took my hand. His grip was warm and solid.
You saved me, you know.
We saved each other, I whispered. I squeezed his hand, then let go. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. 8 months later, I was settling into my office in Manhattan when I got a text from Jack. No words, just a picture. It was a photo of a beach at sunset. I smiled, typing back a single message. To new chapters. 3 dots appeared, then a reply.
To new chapters. I'm going to get coffee and enjoy the view from the balcony. Would you like to join me?
I stared at the screen, my heart beating a rhythm I hadn't felt since that day in the airport lounge. I turned back to my numbers, the smile lingering on my face. The math was finally adding up.